Shalom and good day all, this is Tehillim29 back again for another indie comic review, and in this indie comic review I'm covering some awesome story from Peter J. Tomasi, and the title of this is called Blood Tree. And moving in, the first things first, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside with the story? Sure enough it does, to which I give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's now time to move into the internal art as we look around the beginning, middle and end. And then after that we'll move into the story rating after the art rating. So as we start to move into the story, we see an event that's occurring and taking place. And we start to jump into the area of Bushwick in Brooklyn. So one event taking place in Prospect Park in Brooklyn, and another one back in Bushwick. And we start to see what's happening around the neighborhood in regards to the event. As the story continues, as we slowly draw closer to the middle of the story, we have our detective back on the job, Detective Dario. And we also have Diaz working with him. And of course, they've been called into New York. And they're slowly starting to learn what this blood tree is. So jumping right into the middle, we get to see a little bit more that's happening. And we see that something's happening in New York, as well as Dario, what he's doing. Jumping a little bit further towards the end, and in this part we have detectives going to a church and sort of like talking and asking for a bit of advice in regards to, say, some of the symbolism. And last but not least, towards the end. So for the internal art, I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. Now it's time to move in relation to the story. Because this story doesn't have multiple issues yet, there will be no need for references unless the writer and the editor decide to put it in case there's something that might have turned up in the previous issue that might be of importance that we, the reader, might have missed. So the next is, moving to the next thing, and that is the area of time, to which we get several days later. So we know that this is taking a little bit longer as to what occurred in the first issue, and we're sort of like moving over a little bit over a month and a half, or moving into maybe a month and a half in regards to the investigation. The location, the next area is the locations in the story, to which we had New York City, we had Prospect Park, we had Brooklyn, Bushwick, New Jersey, Newark, Goshen, the church in Goshen. We had Washington Heights, and one other place, because I've got terrible writing, I've forgotten what it's said. And moving into, last but not least, the cast of characters, to which we had Detective Diaz and Dario. We also had Mrs. Joseph Wright, to which one of the latest events actually involves someone from her family. We also had Coral, who's his wife. We had Brian, who is, I think, his father. He's either his dad or his father-in-law. And then we had talk about his young son Alex, because yes, it's now starting to be addressed of what was sort of like shown towards the end of the last issue being brought back in this issue. Overall, for the story rating, I give a 7.5 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.